Welcome to a special segment of In Their Boots. We have now here live via webcam in the studio, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Beck. He's the Marine officer who was featured in Jim Sheeler's novel, A Final Salute, a story of unfinished lives. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you, sir, for being a part of the show today. Welcome to In Their Boots.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And to get right on into it, can you explain to us the general responsibilities and the duty that you were tasked with when the book was written?
Well, I was the site commander for the Marines at Marine Air Control Squadron 23. We had all the reserve Marines from that unit and other units there in 5 states, including Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas. So it's a very large geographical area. And so training those Marines for their potential combat missions was my primary mission. But when casualties occur, it fell upon us to make sure that we took care of those families, and that became our primary mission when that happened.
So when you get the call and you're alerted to a casualty in your area, what's the first step?
Well, the first step is to collect every bit of information that you can about the casualty so that you understand what you may be going into. Collecting all the information possible because sometimes the information is incomplete. Oftentimes, young Marines at times don't have their addresses right in their record of emergency data. So things happen. So we have to collect as much information as we can, make sure that we have everything that we can possibly get our hands on so that we know where that family is. We will not stop until we find them, and we will not stop taking care of them until they want us to go away, or we've formed lifelong bonds, which is basically what's happened with me and a lot of the families that we cared for.
Can you talk about then, once you've got all your facts straight and the information is proven true, where do you go forth from there? And how is it to park on that street?
Well, the notification, casualty notification, we take 2 Marines typically and a chaplain if we can get our hands on one. That's the optimal arrangement. We want to definitely have a chaplain there, and we'll look at the information on the Marines data to make sure that we try to get a chaplain that understands their faith. And sometimes that can be difficult, but there are chaplains out there that definitely want to support. And then we get together, we talk about any unique situations this family may have, and before we actually go and make the notification and let them know that their loved one has died. And so preparing mentally for that is very important. If I have a Marine with me that has never done that, I'll spend a great deal of time with them. Typically what I did was I would send inexperienced Marines with experienced Marines, and so they understood, and they were just silent observers, so that if they were ever tasked with doing it themselves, they would understand what needed to happen.
Can you talk about, from your experience, what are some of the range of emotions and reactions that people have upon the news?
Well, we're giving this family the worst news they can possibly receive, and so preparing yourself for that is important too, because you're gonna deal this crushing blow to this family, and that's hard to do, because once you've done that, you have to figure out a way to support them as best as you can. And Marines do it different than the other services. Then the casualty notification officer actually is the one that supports them throughout the time of after the notification. And so creating this pain for them is what you feel like you're doing, and then you have to be prepared mentally yourself to actually support them throughout their time of need for you and help and everything. And so the different ranges of emotion that we run into, it really varies wildly from intense anger directed at the casualty officer, which is certainly not unreasonable. They're creating this painful experience for this family, and and it's really not unreasonable to believe that they may lash out at you for doing that. So we have to be prepared for that. Oftentimes, the Marine Corps does things that we don't even know why we do them, but I can tell you we send two people there for support for one another, not necessarily for a threat. I don't really think we're too concerned about being injured, but it certainly is a possibility. But we send them there primarily for psychological support. I know that I have that Marine next to me. I'm going to be a little bit stronger, stand a little bit taller, and be a little stronger for that family, just because they're there with me.